2022. That was a year that happened, and now it's over. Well, almost. And one thing that I always love keeping track of during the year is TV shows that are coming out. Honestly, it's the thing that gets me through like hard weeks, being like, oh, like I get through this week and then Friday this show comes out or a new episode of this comes out. I like to watch a lot of TV. It's no surprise. And there are a lot of shows this year that I loved and a lot of shows that I haven't gotten around to watching yet actually as well. But for the shows that I did watch, there were so many great ones this year that I decided to compile a list of my favorite shows of the year and share them with all of you. So first up, I have Our Flag Means Death, which this came out in March, but I actually didn't come around, like I knew about it, but I didn't full on check it out until probably like summer-ish time. And when I got into it, boy oh boy did I get into it. I jumped in both feet. Every single thing that people who love this show have said about this show is absolutely correct. It is such a fun show. The pacing is so interesting to me because the first two episodes I know people think are kind of slower, but it's like when you see it in the grand scheme of the entire season as a whole, those episodes really pay off in helping you get closer to certain characters before meeting other characters. And I just think it is such an amazing ensemble cast. Obviously, I love Steed and Ed. I think is just phenomenal, and I'm so excited to see what season 2 is gonna bring in the new year. I've seen a bit of teases online, and obviously there's a big spoiler for a certain character coming back that we all expected to come back. But yeah, I just think this was super fun, and especially for the type of show it is, in it being like a pirate show, I think it's nice that it doesn't shy away from showing the different sides of people and the different sides of a, could you say, job, right? Like occupation that is typically thought of as more masculine, and you know, with that like this kind of just emotionless pirates and everything like that. And instead it peels back the curtain on that to show you a bunch of different sides to not only our main characters but our side characters and what exactly being a pirate entails, because it is a very lonely, harsh, scary life, and the fact that someone would choose to go into this because they have the adventure idea in their mind. I think we get to see how Steed, along with us, because of our notions, or at least for me, our notions of what pirates are and what pirate shows are like, how that all changes as the season develops. I'm just excited to see what's going to happen in season 2. Next up, I have Moon Knight, which I'm going to be honest with you, 2021, probably actually starting in 2020, but 2021, 2022, Marvel fatigue hit me, and hit me big time, okay? Like, it just got too much to keep up with all of this stuff, and it was stuff that, like, yeah, it looked somewhat interesting, but like after the 35th time you've seen a person fight like a CGI sky, like how much really can it entertain you? But Moon Knight for me was definitely a refreshing change of pace. I think a lot of that is owed to Oscar Isaac, of course, who, I mean, this is a role, or roles, I guess, right, that not just anyone could play, and I feel like having cast him was such an essential part of this being a successful show. Like, it was a bit formulaic in some parts, I think definitely towards the end, but just the whole script to me felt the most in terms of like not knowing what's gonna happen next, like WandaVision. And WandaVision is my favorite Marvel show ever. Like, each episode I had no idea where it was going, and that's such a fun feeling. It was a less amount of episodes, but they weren't afraid to like do a hard reset apparently, or what it seemed like in the middle of the season, and it left you being like, what's going on, what's happening, who's who, what can I trust, like that kind of feeling, and making you feel how the character felt on screen, I think was done fantastically, and I hope that we can see more Moon Knight in the future. Next up, I have Heartstopper, which Heartstopper and I have a fun story because I was all excited to watch this right when it premiered, and then I got my wisdom teeth out and I watched the first 3 episodes, and I have no memory of the first 3 episodes, so I had to go and watch them again. I was super excited when this was announced. I'm a big fan of the Heartstopper online comics and the comics, the print ones that Alice Osman has been making. I think in terms of like what we think of as like popular things, like web comics are still unfortunately like as popular as they are. I feel like mainstream media doesn't think of them like that, if that makes sense. So I was really excited to see this get picked up because obviously it is so popular and it's so good, and to see Alice be so involved in it made me really, really happy because it made me feel like they were going to do a true testament to what the books are. So the first season focuses mainly on the first volume, which makes sense, and it is just so beautiful. I love it so much. It just makes me smile so much. The casting is absolute perfection, and I love how they set everything up with like teasing what's to come, but also like keeping the true theme of Heartstopper, which I think is like bad things happen, but the world is not bad, you know? So it's like, it's not glossing over everything and acting like everything's great, but it's not like despairing just to be despairing, you know? Like, it's not like we're gonna put these characters through the absolute worst just because like that's dramatic. It's like, no, there's payoff for it, and at the end of the day, the main themes are like stick with the people you love and like find your group of people, and if you do that, no matter what happens, you will always have people that you can rely on and love in your life. And I think it's just so great to see so many more people embrace and learn about Heartstopper through this series, and I'm really glad that they got 2 seasons picked up after. They filmed season 2 already, they just wrapped it up. We're gonna see new characters that are all original to the show, and also characters that were introduced later on in the books that are going to be introduced in the new season, and I'm just really, really excited. I think it's such a fun show. The main leads are so amazing and have such great chemistry together, and I am just excited to see where it's going to go. So then next I have First Kill, which I have a bone to pick with Netflix over this show, because first of all, I didn't even see it promoted like at all till like the week before it was happening. I only actually found out, weirdly enough, on a tweet about Legacies getting canceled. Someone was like, hey, check out this show First Kill, and I was like, wait, this looks awesome. So I absolutely love the show, and I'm so greatly upset at Netflix for canceling it. Like, it is my villain origin story, honestly, because it just had so much potential for where it was gonna go, and you can tell that it's one of these shows that like they had like a 4 or 5 season plan where everything was gonna pay off, and I'm just so sad that we won't get to see that. And I think the actors were really coming into their own as the characters and everything, and the story was shaping up to be so interesting and broad and bringing in all these fun ideas, and it's just sad that we won't get to see that. The season itself, though, was really, really good. It blew away so many of my expectations going into it, right? Like, I thought they were gonna fall in love first and then find out that they were a vampire and a vampire hunter. To watch that, like, it was the opposite of, like, they knew each other and, like, that's how they started hanging out with each other, was to, like, suss the other one up, and then they just fall in love anyway, was so amazing. And I think also, like, expecting Juliet to kind of be the more, like, cunning of the two, and then it be that Calliope is the more, like, cunning of the two, and Juliet's just kind of like this vampire that like has to eat people but like doesn't want to, and it's just like this ray of sunshine. Was really, really cute. Like, that show just makes me happy. It's so campy, but like in a good way of like, I just want to enjoy a show. And I feel like there's so many shows these days that they want to teach you something or make you feel something, right? And it was nice just to like watch a show that made me feel happy and made me gasp. It was fun, and I'm sad that I'm not going to get to see more of them in my life. I'm angry that I'm not going to get to see more of them in my life, and if I ever turn into a vampire in real life, Netflix, whoever made that decision, I'm coming for you and sucking all your blood. So next up, I have The Summer I Turned Pretty, which when I first heard about this, I was like, no, I don't like love triangles. I love Jenny Han, and I love To All the Boys I Loved before those movies, but I was just like, no, I don't like love triangles. I had heard of the books before, was not interested in them because of the love triangle specifically, and then everyone was talking about it. Like, it looked so pretty, the edits that people were posting online, and my friends were watching it, and it just seemed like such a fun summer show that I was like, you know what, I gotta do it. You wore me down. Congratulations. And it ended up being really, really fun. Do I think it's perfect? No, but I think it's a really great, fun, like, summer show. Like I said, the love triangle actually wasn't too annoying, and that's coming from someone who really does not like love triangles. I think a lot of it has to do with the chemistry of the cast, especially Lola as Belly. I think is such a great, like, you really root for her, and I think you have to root for her in this situation, because if you found her like annoying, it would just make the story like you wouldn't care about it at all. So I really give credit to her for that. And then also, like, the boys themselves are very interesting and have different approaches to their relationships with Belly, which I think makes it interesting, because it's not like, oh, this one clearly treats you better, like you should be with him. It's like, no, they each bring out different sides of her, and it's kind of like, which one do you value more, and how can that change in the moment? And it makes it kind of fun. And, you know, like, you might change yourself from like moment to moment, being like, oh, like, this scene really sold me on Conrad, but now like I see this scene and like Jeremiah is really cute and like making her smile. And I think they just did such a good job of that, and I'm excited and hopeful that they can carry that over into season 2. I don't know. This is where it's like, I'm like, all right, you got me with the love triangle now, but can you carry it on? Because that's when they can get kind of dramatic, when they're bouncing bouncing back and forth entirely between people, but I'm just excited to see what they're going to bring and if it can recapture that magic of the summer that I think the first season did. After that, I have What We Do in the Shadows season 4. I know this season wasn't perfect. It had a big glaring issue in the Marwa and how they handled that, and like kind of with that, the Freddy storyline I felt like was a little weirdly rushed and then turned into something that was just not great. But aside from that, there were a lot of things about this season that I loved, and I feel like as the show goes on, they just seem more and more comfortable in finding their footing, and it's just great, especially for like the actors, to see them really come into these roles and own them as like career-defining roles, in my opinion. Like Guillermo, I love his whole journey that he's going on, and even Nandor, I feel like season 3 coming off and being more depressed, I think this was an interesting take on it of like, he's just so like, I want to find my companion in life, and trying to alter someone to his kind of unfulfillable expectations instead of trying to actually change and look inward to maybe what the problems he has are that could make him not a great partner. I love the whole baby Colin storyline, which I honestly did not think I was going to, but I loved it so much. I love the side that it brought out of Laszlo and how you really got to see him struggle with being a dad, but also really care for baby Colin, and that made obviously the season finale even more emotional when everything kind of got reset and you realized like nothing changes. And I know people were frustrated with that, but obviously like that was supposed to be, I think, what we were supposed to take away with it, is like the characters are frustrated. Like Guillermo's frustrated that like nothing changes in this household. Like they can talk and talk and talk, but nothing ever changes, and that's why he left. And I feel like they got us like to feel like that too, so then we kind of understand more of like the frustration, the existentialism that like the characters are feeling, and I think they did a really good job, and I just can't wait to see what's gonna happen in season 5. Next up, I have a bit of a surprise, because I honestly, especially after I watched the first 3 episodes of this, I wrote it off, but that is the reboot of the Pretty Little Liars series. Now, Pretty Little Liars in general, the first one, I watched the first like 3 seasons and then I dipped, and like seeing some of the stuff that happened after I dipped, I am glad I dipped at that point, because I feel like that was the correct decision. So when they were rebooting it, I was kind of like, what? Like it felt too soon. I was watching the first 3 episodes and it just wasn't clicking. Like tonally, I was kind of confused if it was like trying to emulate the original Pretty Little Liars or like go for a more gritty tone. But then after that, I feel like it really started to all click for me, and I loved it. Like I just felt like the tone, they found their footing more with it, and it was more like gritty and dark, and the issues they dealt with were way more serious but also more relevant, I think, to what people deal with today, and like seeing them take that on, especially in terms of like how women and especially how teenage girls are treated, I think was just really refreshing to see how they always had the backs of their girls. And I feel like the main cast had such great chemistry together. I honestly, and I know this might be crazy to say, but I honestly kind of love this more than the original Pretty Little Liars, because I feel like the original Pretty Little Liars had some very, very bad, and I know it was based on the book, but like the whole relationship with the teacher, like they changed that in the TV show. So like in the books, he gets arrested, which is what he should, and it honestly had one of my favorite scenes, I think, of the entire year on TV, which was the chasing with Noah. Like, oh my gosh, my heart was racing during that scene. Like, I don't think there's anything in the original that ever came close to that, and I just really hope that season 2 can carry that on, because I think where the original definitely started to, you know, go downhill was like the many A's that they had. Like they had to keep upping it and adding an A, and we did find out who A was at the end of this season, which I liked. I like that they didn't drag that out, but it's also worrisome, because I feel like now how are you going to be like, oh, there's another A, you know, because obviously there is Archie still out there, but I feel like it was very clear that the dad was like the mastermind of most stuff, and Archie was just kind of like a guard dog of like, you send him off in a certain direction and he'll do what you say. So I don't know, I'm hopeful, because like I said, the individual storylines of the girls were very interesting. I just hope that they don't ruin that by adding in some like weird, you know, oh, there's a random sister or a twin or something like that. So fingers crossed, but we shall see. And then next up, I have another show that I feel like was not given its due just and was not promoted very well by its distributor, which is Paper Girls. This was based on the comic book series by the guy, I believe, either he did the show or the comic books, I'm not sure, but the guy who did Runaways, which I also really love that comic book series, and I felt like that was also not given its just due, but this one really was not, okay? Like, there was no promotion for it. I only found out about it because one of my friends posted about it on Instagram, and I was like, oh my gosh, this looks amazing. It literally obviously was going for like that like Stranger Things kind of thing. Like, I don't know if Amazon was like, this is gonna be a Stranger Things, but like clearly that was like the comparison with like the young kids. But it's another one that it's just so good, but I'm also bummed because I feel like this season would have been even better and paid off more had more seasons been able to come, and like we would have been able to find out more about what's happening. Like I think KJ and Mac, like I was so into that, and I would have loved to see that develop more as they get older. And it just bums me out that we won't get to see like the characters grow and like the actors come into their own as the characters like we have with Stranger Things. And I think the aesthetics of it were so cool, like the pink sky when they were time traveling and trying to figure out what was happening exactly, and kind of putting yourself in the mind of like, okay, what would I do in this situation? Because it's like you're judging these girls, are like, why are you doing this? But I'm like, what would you actually do in this situation, right? If you like woke up like 30 years in the future and like your 30-year-old older self is staring at you like, what's going on? Like, you know, they did the best they could, and I'm just sad we won't get to see it given a proper conclusion, because I feel like it really could have been something even more epic than the first season was. And then lastly we have, which I have said before, but it was probably my most anticipated show of the year, and I had to wait a long time for it, but it was definitely worth it, and that is Wednesday. I loved this. I loved this. I loved this. I could not say it more how much I loved this. I loved Jenna Ortega before this even aired, but like seeing her just become Wednesday was amazing, and she did such a good job of like this like apathetic kind of vibe that Wednesday has going on, but then being able to emote everything in her face or in her body language, especially like when Thing was almost, well, basically killed and she broke down. It didn't feel like out of character, and like I just think that's a huge credit to Jenna, because it's like that's not something anyone could just do. And I feel like a lot of this, I mean, the fact that she made up that entire dancing that has become like so popular from the show, I think shows how much she understands this character. And I think the supporting characters are really cool and interesting too, and I'm just so excited for the potential of what season 2 could be, because season 1 I think was this perfect vibe of like spooky, kooky, scary, and I think it just really was nice to have Wednesday's moment to shine. And it was just really, really fun and, you know, really spooky. There were moments where it was like, what's going on? No, stop it. And there were moments where you're laughing, and I just think it was so fun. And yeah, I really think it has potential to develop into something super, super great, and I'm just so excited to see how it's gonna go. So yeah, those are the shows I enjoyed this year. Like I said, there's a bunch more that I know people have recommended and I do want to check out, but like I'm either all in or all out. Like is the problem. Like I'm all in and watching a show and finishing it, or like I keep saying I'm gonna watch it, but I'm like, I'm not gonna watch it till I can watch all the episodes, and then lo and behold, I just end up watching YouTube. So yeah, these are the shows that I really, really loved and just got me like reading fanfic about them, writing fanfic about them, searching them on Tumblr, you know, like all the things you do when you're just absolutely obsessed with a show. So I am so excited to hear what your guys' favorite shows was in the year, and if you have any recommendations or if you've seen any of these shows, please feel free to leave your thoughts about them and what you loved this year down below in the comments. I always love getting new recommendations, but also hearing like your thoughts on shows that I love, because I love discussing my shows that I love. Like I could go on and on about any of these shows for an hour each if you wanted me to, but I will spare you and we will save that for the comments. So thank you guys all so much for watching not only this, but all my videos this year. I'm sure I'll have a few more before the year ends, but I just want to say thank you, since a lot of it is reactions to a lot of these TV shows that I have listed. Thank you guys for reacting along with me, encouraging me when I'm like, what the heck is going on, you know, and everything like that. And yeah, make sure to give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!